Okay, so today we are going to talk about the MACD. And no, I am not talking about that fast food place. I am talking about one of the most popular trading indicators that you can start using in your strategies today. Are you ready? Let's go. If you remember in the moving average video, when a short-term moving average crosses above a long-term moving average, that gives us a bullish signal. And when the short-term crosses below, that gives us a bearish signal. And it was developed by a smart-ass dude called Gerald Appel. So by default, the MACD uses the 12 EMA and the 26 EMA. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull up a chart with the 12 and 26 EMA so you can go ahead and see what it looks like. Hold up. Hold up. 1 minute. Help! Little help here! So now that I finally got this chart pulled up for you, notice how the lines will start separate from each other as the strength increases. That is what the MACD is doing. It's helping us profit from the divergence by analyzing the difference between these two lines. These values can be changed by you or the trader, but for this purpose, we are going to keep it at the default, as it commonly usually is. So now let's go ahead and start breaking down the indicator. The indicator has two lines. So to create what's called the MACD line, Mr. Smarty Pants decided to take the long-term moving average of the 26 EMA and subtract it from the short-term moving average, the 12 EMA. So this next line here is what we call a signal line. Basic bullish signals or buy signals happens when the MACD line crosses above the signal line. And when the MACD line crosses below the signal line, this is what we get, a bearish signal. This line is taken by the 9 moving average of the MACD line. And when these two lines are plotted together, it gives us a clear sign whether it's going to be bullish or bearish. Together, it's giving us a sign on shifting momentum. Blah, 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 all mathematical nerdy stuff. Yes, I know. And I know some of you are like me and a little bit nerdy and want to understand how all of this actually comes together. And here it is. Basic bullish signals or buy signals happens when the MACD line crosses above the signal line. And when the MACD line crosses below the signal line, this is what we get, a bearish signal. Now when the crossover happens below the zero line, the overall momentum is still bearish. And this crossover is telling you that we have a potential reversal. So looking on the chart, we can see in these general areas here where the bullish signals happen, and over in these areas where the bearish signals happen. But where these signals happen in relation to the zero line is very important and oftentimes overlooked by most traders. When we get a buy signal under the zero line, this does not, let me say that again, this does not mean that this is all of a sudden a bullish trade and that you should jump into right away. Now when the crossover happens below the zero line, the overall momentum is still bearish. And this crossover is telling you that we have a potential reversal. Remember, indicators are never 100%. They are here to help us make better decisions when we try to put all the pieces together. So if you do decide to buy when it's under the zero line, you're doing it with the understanding that this is a potential reversal. You need to make sure you are on top of that risk management because you are still in a bearish territory. However, buying in this area can lead to a potential bigger return. So generally speaking, the safer trades are when this crossover happens above the zero line, and ideally closer to the zero line as possible, as when the crossover happens away from the line, it starts to become overextended. Now before we dive in and dissecting some of these charts with some examples, let me go ahead and get into some of the drawbacks with this indicator. Because this is based off moving averages, it is a lagging indicator, like I mentioned in that last video. Lagging indicators can whipsaw a trader in and out of position several times pretty quick if you're only relying on the indicator itself. This is why it's very important to make sure that we are trading from all aspects of the chart and not just one thing. Too much MACD will make you fat and super unhealthy. So now let's go ahead and dive into some examples. So if you look right here, we have a bullish crossover, and although it did happen under the zero line, all the candles are actually starting to trend above our resistances. And this is giving me a good indication that we're about to have a nice little bull run. Now, if you fast forward a little bit, we do have another crossover right here. And this was a very short-lived. Now remember, all of these are not going to be 100%. Indicators are just here to help us make better decisions. So now when we have this next crossover right here to giving us a bullish sign, we have to be aware of the 90 SMA above our head, which ended up acting as a very big resistance. If you were to take a trade here, you would understand that you're taking a risk that may not pan out. And in this case, it didn't. And if we keep fast forwarding all of these that are signaling under the zero line are giving us possible reversals, but as you can see, it took a while for them to actually happen. And when you trade in this area, just be very, very, very careful. So now I have shop pulled up, and let's go ahead and dissect this one a little bit and see what we can learn. So here we have our first bullish crossover, and although it is right at the zero line and a tad under, we can see all our candles are trending right above it. And because they're trending above our moving averages, this gives me a pretty good confident feeling that we are going to end up pushing, which it did pretty well right here. Again, just like mRNA, we have a crossover that's indicating a possible reversal, but as you can see, we have the SMA right above us. And this is a very, very hard resistance. And as we fast forward more, this looks very much like mRNA, where we had a crossover here and a crossover here, signaling possible reversals. Here I have Amazon pulled up. Right here we have the bullish crossover under the zero line, signaling the possible reversal. I would not have taken a trade just yet because I see all of these resistances above the head. As soon as it starts to break and hold the support above all these lines, I see that we have a bullish mag. It gives me a little bit more confident to go ahead and buy, which it ends up doing a pretty decent push. Now, if you notice this crossover here, it did give us a little buy opportunity, but because of how far it's extended above the line, it is letting you know that we are starting to become in the extended territory. Fast forward a little bit, we see we have one more crossover, and honestly, I probably would have taken a trade here and then just cut my losses super fast to keep it at minimum, because it does look like it's going to be holding support with a bullish sign. And this is a perfect example on how indicators are never 100% perfect, and we use them to help us maximize our potential outcome. However, we do need to make sure we have a good risk management in place. And then from this point on, pretty much any crossover you see that's under the zero line is also under these hard moving averages. I personally would not have taken any trades no longer on this, but that's all great on the minute time frame. But what about these higher time frames? Let's go ahead and look at the 1 hour examples. Now I got the 1 hour time frame of TDOC pulled up. And as we can see right here, we have our first bullish crossover. Now, because these are trending above my moving averages, it's giving me a pretty good inclination to go ahead and get a start position going right here. And as we can see, it starts to push up. It did pull back in this area here to test the moving average, which is natural. And then as you can see, we get another crossover right on the zero line. Because it's holding these averages pretty well as a support, again, another great entry, so you go ahead and add. Now, if we fast forward, we can go ahead and see that we're starting to get some bullish crossovers in this area. But however, because it's under the zero line, and because we have these hard resistances of the moving averages right above our head, I personally would not have touched it. If you touch it, you know you're taking a little bit riskier of a chance to try to maximize your potential reward. Now let's go ahead and take a look at PDD on the hour chart and see what we can do here. So now that we got our candles trending above our moving averages as a support, you can see that we go ahead and we are getting a bullish crossover on the MACD in this general area. This is a good place to buy because not only are you close to the zero line, but you're overall pretty close to your support on this chart. And as you can see, over the next few days, it ends up pushing pretty decent, up to 16-17% so far. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at overstock on the hour chart and see what we have going on here. So right here at the beginning of this chart, we see that we have a bullish crossover. And once this crossover happened, it is technically under the zero line. However, because it's still holding our support pretty decent, as soon as it crosses this 90 moving average, I'm gonna find that this is very attractive. I see that it's bullish, but I also see that it held the support line pretty well. So this would have been my first entry. But however, if you had missed this entry, we always want to find some kind of good pullback. And in this area right here, it gave us another great opportunity. You can see on the MACD, we got another bullish crossover, but more importantly, it happened on support. Pullbacks are natural, and yes, it can be scary when you see that price is coming back. But however, you're gonna have to get used to it depending on your trading style. And when we want to get into a position, pullbacks are typically where we enter. So as you can see right here, another great example of the entry, and it started to push very, very well. If you decide to go ahead and get in on this crossover right here, you're understanding that it's a tad bit riskier for two reasons. First, you are starting to get off of support. The farther off support, the more it can pull back. It may not be the best entry. And second, you can see that this crossover happened pretty high above the zero line. also indicating that it may be overextended. But in this case, it was still a great entry. You just got to make sure when you take any trade that you understand where to get out, where your stop losses are, and to have a really good risk management in place. So overall, the MACD indicator is one of the most popular trading indicators on the market. It allows traders to quickly identify the trading direction so they can try to capitalize on the movement. Very few indicators have been as reliable as the MACD. And this relatively simple indicator can be applied into your trading strategies very quick. Now remember, if you're enjoying this free content that I am giving you, please hit that like button and that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification icon so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Now remember, I am not a financial advisor. I am just somebody that's giving all of my knowledge and resources to you for free, because I am a big believer that life is not a competition. I want to see every one of you guys succeed. So I just want you all to become an alpha bull. Put in that hard work, put in that study time, kick some ass, take some names, make life to what you want it to be. You all have a fantastic day. As the strength, son of a